You are listening to Lighthearted, the official podcast of the United States Lighthouse Society. My name is Jeremy D'Entremont. Welcome. Today is October 12th, 2025, and this is another edition of Lighthearted Light, where we look back on the 6+ years of this podcast. Today's edition is short and sweet. The interview is with Russ Rowlett, webmaster of the Lighthouse Directory, one of the oldest and most useful lighthouse-related websites on the internet. This conversation was recorded way back in May 2019 and was first heard in episode 19. When Russ Rowlett was growing up in Richmond, Virginia, his only exposure to lighthouses was climbing the Old Cape Henry Lighthouse when his family vacationed at Virginia Beach. He earned a doctorate degree in math at the University of Virginia in the 1960s. After serving in the Army for 2 years as a computer programmer, he taught math for 2 years at Princeton and then 13 years at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. In 1987, he became director of the Center for Mathematics and Science Education at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Starting in the early 1970s, Russ vacationed with his wife and eventually also with their son on the Outer Banks of North Carolina at Nags Head. Russ started his website, the Lighthouse Directory, in 1999, and it kept growing until, by 2009, it covered the whole world. The address of the site is ibiblio, that's ibiblio.org/lighthouse. Let's listen to my conversation with Russ Rowlett now. Okay, well, thanks so much for spending some time with me today, Russ, and it is great to finally get to talk to you because we've actually been corresponding for pretty close to 20 years, I would say. I probably first got in touch with you not long after you first started the Lighthouse Directory back around, probably right around the year 2000. So, again, thanks so much for joining me today, Russ.
Well, I'm happy to do it. Glad to have the opportunity.
What first inspired you to start the Lighthouse Directory?
Well, it was the time when the Cape Henry Lighthouse was relocated, which was the summer of 1999. That's 20 years ago. And everybody in North Carolina was excited about lighthouses at that time. And I said, well, I'm going to start a little website for lighthouses in North Carolina and maybe a few adjoining states. And from there, it just went on and on. It's one of those things where you want to go over the next hill and see what's there, and then over the next hill, and then over the next hill. And it took 10 years, and eventually it covered the whole world.
So what was your main goal when you first began the site?
Well, I've always seen the site as kind of a research tool. I wanted to put in links where if you were interested in a lighthouse, I could give you the basics, then you could have links maybe to show you photos and other information. And so that's been my goal throughout, was to try to get as much information out for people as possible, both with what I had on the page and with the links.
At this point, how many countries and how many lighthouses are now listed in the Lighthouse Directory?
Okay, well, there are more than 21,000 lighthouses. I'm not sure the exact number today. It goes up a little bit every so often. I don't know how many countries there are, but I can tell you there are 722 pages of listings. And, of course, many countries have more than one page, so there might be 250 or 300 countries.
It's funny, I lecture about lighthouses pretty often, and for a long time at the beginning I was giving some basics about lighthouses, and I was saying that there are over 10,000 lighthouses in the world, and fairly recently I started saying there are over 20,000 lighthouses in the world, and I always tell people I know that because a friend has a website, the Lighthouse Directory, which lists over 20,000 lighthouses in the world, so that's how I know there are that many. So thank you for providing that service. What would you say has been for you the most fun part of maintaining your website?
Oh, well, I get to see so much of the world's coastlines, and there are lots of places that are just wonderful to look at. I mean, New Zealand is such a spectacular place. You just love to see it. So it's really satisfying to me. I can't go to these places, but I feel like now I have some familiarity with them just because of all that I've seen.
So it's a form of armchair traveling in a way.
It's definitely a form of armchair traveling.
Yeah. What now? You corresponded certainly with people in many of these countries to help get some of the information.
Yes.
And can you think of any memorable correspondence you've had with people in some of these countries, or maybe memorable questions or comments that come to mind over the years?
Well, many people have been helpful in sending comments, suggestions, information, corrections, because I often make mistakes, and photos. And of course, as you see on the website, there are many photos from other people. I don't know how to start listing them all. You know some of the people who have been of the most help to the directory. Michelle Ferran, now unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
And Craig Anderson, and I correspond with Alex Travis in Germany. He has a huge website, as you know. And lots of these people have been very helpful.
What would you say has been the most frustrating part for you of maintaining the site? What's been the most difficult part of it?
Well, the most difficult part is that there are areas where we just don't have information. Right this moment, I happen to be working on one of the pages for Indonesia. That's a huge country. It has hundreds of lighthouses. There's no good list. Half the location data is wrong, and it's really hard to deal with. And so generally, if the information is good, I'm happy, and when it's not, it's a little frustrating.
So Indonesia's been one of the hardest countries. I would imagine the Asian countries in general have been among the hardest countries to find information. Certainly information in English has probably been very difficult.
Yes, China is very difficult. It's interesting, Japan is quite easy. The Japanese have many lighthouses. They love their lighthouses. There are lots of websites. Vietnam has good information. But many of the other Asian countries don't.
Have you thought about not that you're not old or anything, but have you thought about down the line the idea that maybe somebody else could possibly take over the site? Has there been any interest in that? Because it's such an enormous resource, and I would hope it could go on forever. Has there been any thought of that down the line?
Yes, well, of course, I hope that won't be needed right away. But the site recently moved, as I'm sure you noticed. It had been on UNC faculty web space, which you had to be UNC faculty to access, but now it's on iBiblio, which is still a service of UNC, but it's open to other people. And so theoretically, at least, somebody else could participate in
Let me just ask you, of course, two of your biggest passions have been mathematics for many years and lighthouses. Do you see any connection between those two subjects?
Well, it's tenuous, I guess. I have a nose for numbers, and I can remember a lot of numbers and a lot of data, and that's certainly helpful in doing the lighthouse research. I can't say much more of a connection than that.
I was just wondering if you thought that your interest in math somehow led into your interest in lighthouses in any way, but your interest in lighthouses goes back
pretty
far. I do really appreciate your time today, Russ, and I just want to say that your website is one of the greatest resources that certainly I know it's been such a help to me, and hardly a day goes by when I don't refer to it in the course of my everyday work.
Well, I'm glad you're making good use of the site, and of course that's what I want, and so I'm really happy to hear that.
I've got it bookmarked at the top of my browser all the time, so I'm always looking at it. So it's just, it's just part of my daily life. So thank you so much for all that you do, and I'm sure I speak for so many people out there. So thank you, Russ.
Well, thank you, and I've enjoyed our talk.
In the interview, again, which was recorded back in the spring of 2019, Russ said that there were more than 21,000 lighthouses that he had listed in the world. Today, at this moment, there are listings on the Lighthouse Directory for more than 24,600 of the world's lighthouses. It's amazing how much information he's compiled, and if there are more lighthouses out there, Russ will find them. The Lighthouse Directory really is one of the most useful lighthouse sites on the internet, and I was very glad to get better acquainted with Russ Rowlett after corresponding with him for many years. Be sure to visit uslhs.org to learn about preservation grants, tours, the research catalog, and everything the U.S. Lighthouse Society offers. If you listen on a platform that allows you to post reviews, please rate and review us. That is it for this edition of Lighthearted Light. We'll be back with a new episode next week. Until then, to all our regular listeners and our new ones, thank you so much for listening, and keep a good light.
Let it shine, let it shine.